Hello, everyone. John Doyle from Optics EQ, along with Emily Gulikson, and we figured we'd go over and review this past weekend's Derby preps and see how Optics did. We actually analyzed two of these races on video, see how we did. We did pretty well with one we didn't do as well with. And we didn't do the grade 3 Robert B. Lewis because it was such a small field, but we're going to start with our analysis with that, Emily. It was the big coming out party again for Messier. He just kind of crushed a 5-horse field. And, let's talk about it. What did you think about the effort?
Well, I mean, he was obviously very dominant in that race. But I mean, I think it's a real case of, who did he beat? And horses can run these big efforts when they have everything their own way. And that was really the case with him. I mean, I did actually the Optics focus for it, so we do have some record going into this race. And really his only kind of main challenge in this race was the number 2 Sir London. For Callahan, a horse that was coming into the race off a maiden win and had the improving Optics figures, and that horse stumbled out of the gate and then dueled between horses before backing out. So once that horse backed up, the rest of the field is really, they're not much. We're talking horses that could probably be running for a tag, or on a lower circuit or something like that. So he was certainly flattered by the level of competition and certainly the trip, and then just the way that, being inside, having that early speed and getting it his own way. So, I mean, just really hasn't been tested off that effort. And I think that'll be the big kind of ask for him going forward.
Yeah. And this is the plot you're looking at. The yellow or gold is the horse that won. The bronze is the 3rd place horse, and the silver is the 2nd place horse. So you just kind of get to know where they were on the plot. And yeah, it was all about the early part of the race. And I think it was, I listened to a little bit of Velasquez after the race, and strategically was just to go from the rail. If those other horses go, he could take, he could just sit back. So it was the right move. He got out there clean, got a little pressure though. This is the grid. I just want to show, let me just bring that up. Let me move this out of the way. I'll bring up the grid for that race. So he earned a 97, which is pretty comparable to the Holy Bull. But again, the way he did it versus that race, I think is, and that field versus this field is significant. I noticed you say weak here. Emily, what does that mean when you say weak in the keywords?
Just in terms of the race shape itself, I mean, again, I mentioned Sir London, even that horse was just kind of a recent maiden winner, maybe being the one horse that could kind of step up, and all the other horses in the race were pretty below going in. I don't know if you want to maybe expand the chart further, if it's worth it, so just to kind of see, but the other horses in that field were running.
Yeah, I could see the one thing I saw right off the bat was the Optics fig range for the race. Pretty anemic.
Yeah, it was low, but I mean, you just, the 3 was running mid 80s, and those were numbers on the turf, but his dirt numbers were in the upper 70s. The number 4, who's his stablemate, ran a maiden race. Again, Baffert horses, they don't really improve much, and got the same number for the number 5, a horse that had a bit of a setup with the race flow in his debut. So these just were really not. And then if you want to pull up the number 2, that was a horse that just maybe something went wrong in that race, hard to tell. But again, that was like the one horse that could potentially challenge Messier, and stumbling at the start and then backing up early. It was just really a 1-horse race after that.
So the jury's still out. Good effort versus who knows, but the jury's still out, I guess, on Messier.
Yeah, so I guess to kind of cycle back to your question about weak, because this is going to come up one of the other races, is it's just not a very strong field for the level.
Right. So he dominated a weak field. Let's see how he does as the competition gets a little deeper. Okay, so I think there's enough to say. We didn't even review this race because it wasn't worth reviewing earlier. So. That's the Santa Anita Robert B. Lewis on Saturday. We're going to switch over to New York for the Aqueduct Withers. And I handicapped this race for our customers on the video race of the day. And the plot was right and I was wrong. So there you go. The plot beat me because the number 9 just kind of was a standout on the plot. And it was just based on one race, and I didn't, I was a little suspect of that race. It was a maiden race, didn't come back all that strong. And I just thought he'd be challenged in this race. There were some other horses I thought were maybe under the radar, but you know, I don't know if you watched this race, Emily, but basically yeah, okay. So early voting just basically ran the field off their feet, okay? And he was just sent from the gate. That day, you know, New York, people talk about biases all the time, and there's always these biases. But that day, there was no bias, discernible bias.
I agree completely.
Right? And so, I mean, they just sent this horse, and to me was like, why would you, like, if you think this horse is all that, why are you sending this horse so hard against the field like this? So that kind of raised questions to me right off the bat. It's like, you know, if you really think you have a Kentucky Derby horse, I don't know, it just seemed like the way they sent that horse, it was like, that's odd. You know, you just think you know, they kind of whatever. But he, you know, essentially he did. He ran the horse off their feet. But in the stretch, it was ugly. I mean, it just, no one was catching him, but he didn't do any running. In fact,
he was shortening strides. He's drifting out to the left-handed stick. Yeah, it was.
And I had, you know, if you look at my notes in this, you know, lone, the tactic was to go, you know, it was the right tactic. He spaced the field, so the field was really stretched out. And when they were coming home, man, boy, I mean, I think I have it in here in the extended note. The final quarter was 27.68. That's not what you want from a Kentucky Derby contender, right? You don't want them finishing like that. Now, granted, you know, he went fast early, but still, you know, like, again, that kind of tactic says to me, maybe they don't have all that confidence in the world in this horse. I don't know. I don't get a good feeling. I put this race as a weak race too. If you look behind him, I think that, you know, the field was, you know, relatively weak. So, you know, that's why I was trying to take a shot in this race. So I was wrong about that, but I'd probably be betting against early voting going forward.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say you were wrong. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when you have questions on a horse at a short price, you know, the right thing to do is to take a shot. And if you're wrong, you just, you know, you're incorrect,
sure,
doesn't work out, you live with it.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, early voting just visually, it just is not a horse that is going to get better with more distance, and certainly not better with tougher competition. To me, that I like the effort of the 4. I probably would have had the 4 a little bit higher than the C+. I thought that was kind of a sneaky good effort where he was wide.
I agree.
Okay.
I may have to adjust. I agree, especially with the way that track he was coming from way back. Yeah, I thought he ran pretty well.
I thought that was like the one horse that I'm like, this could be a horse that seems like he's kind of inching forward a little bit.
I mean, you know, you look at that. I mean, again, this will go through adjustments, I imagine, you know, these figures, but on our figures, 80. And that was just, he was 82 in his debut. So, I mean, he's, you know, it's not like he's ran a really fast race either. And I don't know, I just heard a couple of comments about this horse. Like, people are like, well, I want to see him again. You know, he's exciting. And I'm like, wow. I mean, it's not for me.
No.
Not at all. He really got to turn it up a notch. So, yeah, you know, let's face it, over the last, I don't know, seems like 100 years now, New York has not been the place where the Kentucky Derby horses are coming from anyway. They've been subpar at best. I think the last Kentucky Derby winner was Fusiachi Pegasus. I think that was the last horse that won one of the New York preps and won the Derby. It's been a long time. Okay, so that was the Aqueduct Withers. Then we're going to move on to, I think, the best race of the weekend. You know, for the preps was the Holy Bull, and I handicapped this with Donald, and I think we nailed this race on our video analysis. You know, I was high on the 8. He got the perfect trip, not the way I thought he was going to get. I thought he'd be actually stalking the 4 versus the 1, and the 4 never got out of the gate. And he's kind of up against it after that. You know, he rushed and then he was wide. And I thought the 4 ran really good race, but I thought it was a hard race on a horse like that. You know, because me and Donald talked about the race before. We said, you know, he kind of strikes us more as maybe a one-turn type of horse. So I think this kind of effort, and if they stretch him out to 9 furlongs, I think is going to be I think he's going to regress on that kind of trip, my opinion. The 8 ran great, but he got the perfect trip. And I thought the 2 ran great, in my opinion. Mo Donegal, I thought he was track was kind of against him, but he really kicked it in, I thought, late. And I was high on this horse, and we're friends with the owners and stuff like that. And I just think this horse, I talked to them before and I said, it looks like a prep to me for you guys. And it was like the perfect prep for this horse, right? That's what I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was a very, very, very good effort for kind of all those reasons. I mean, it wasn't really the race where he needed to be peaked for. And I think that he learned something from that race, and it's just a horse that's getting better. And, running kind of behind horses, having to be a little bit closer to the pace than kind of he has in the past, while he's inside. Being outside and being kind of close is sort of a different story. So being inside behind horses, and then he angles out and gets in the clear and really shows another gear, and it just has that like will to pass horses. So I thought it was a good effort for him, and the more ground, the better.
Yeah,
and those other horses better watch out.
That's what it is with him. Yeah, I mean, he's all about the distance, that's for sure. There was a couple horses coming back here that like the Giant Game, that was the Roman's horse that we were kind of against, because Roman doesn't really point to this meet. He was disappointing. He just strikes me as more of a turf horse anyway, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, he's kind of on the smaller side. Looks a little one turn to me, but they did report that he displaced his palate.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
that would make sense for the no keep, right? I mean, probably had breathing issues.
Yeah,
there.
because I mean, he was in a great spot.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, he was sitting a perfect trip at that point.
Yeah. And Galt, Donald likes Galt going forward. And I think he's more of a, more turfy too. And I'm not sure about distances with him either.
He's kind of runty.
Yeah, that's right. I saw him on the track. I'm like, that's the horse. I mean, like, I was like,
Yeah.
And then like the 6 is definitely a turf horse. He had no business.
Oh, yeah.
But they took their shot. But I mean, you see, he was climbing all over the place, and just that wasn't what he wanted. So I think Mo Donegal comes out of this race, and the winner ran a great race. Just that he got the perfect setup, and I don't know. But I think if you look at anyone going forward, it's the 2 out of this race. That's the horse that I really truly think is our first Derby contender. Him and the 1 probably ran the best of the weekends. I like the 2's effort the best though for a Derby horse.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we have. Next weekend I think is pretty light. We have the Golden Gate race. And then I don't like the Lab, but I'm just saying, it just seems like it's such an odd race. It's a grade 3, it's on synthetic, it doesn't draw anything. It's kind of a weird race to have points for, but I understand trying to incorporate all the tracks into things. And then I guess the other one is the Tampa Race. That should be okay. Sam F. Davis usually draws a pretty good field. So that's the next ones on the list. And Emily, when's the next big fairgrounds and Oaklawn races?
It'll be, the fairgrounds is the 16th, so not this weekend, but the following weekend. Will be Risen Star. Is that what we're up to?
Yes, the Risen Star.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's fairgrounds has been a good prep. Fairgrounds, obviously Gulfstream, San Diego are the main places.
Yeah, I think the fairground, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see who they draw, who stays, just kind of that local group, and who kind of ships in. There's some horses at Oaklawn that have been running in the Southwest, and Smarty Jones, and I kind of wonder for the connections if they're going to go into fairgrounds, just because those horses are they're just not getting trips at Oaklawn for whatever reason, whether it's the big full fields or just the way the track is playing. It's like, I would want to see some of those horses get out of town, get out of town, run somewhere else, and get over a different track and see if that it just makes a difference,
Yeah, the big thing with horses, is confidence. I think it's like people. I think it's get them some confidence, and then then you can maybe move forward. But it's the hardest thing, putting horses in the right spots to do their best. So hopefully this was good for everyone, because I think Emily and I talk about this all the time, looking at these result plots to get a feel for where these horses were. This particular Holy Bull just laid out just like it was written up here, right? So it's great to review these things, and so hopefully we'll do some of this more with these Kentucky Derby preps. So I thank everyone for listening, and join us on our podcast and subscribe to this channel. Thanks a lot.